Hi, everyone. I'm Jess, and I'm the content manager here at Course Report. Course Report is the resource for helping people find the right coding boot camps and cybersecurity boot camps for them. With Course Report, you can research the best boot camps all over the world, find out which technical skills and coding languages you should learn, where to apply, and how to fund your very own boot camp experience. Today, I'm so happy to have Gabrielle Oler joining us to talk about her cybersecurity bootcamp experience. Gabrielle graduated from Springboard Cybersecurity career track earlier this year and now works as a system administrator at Coherent Technical Services, Inc. So thanks so much for talking with me today, Gabrielle. You have such a great tech job now, and I want to talk about that soon, but let's start first with how you got into cybersecurity. So what inspired you to make a career change into cybersecurity this year?
So I actually finished my bachelor's degree this past December, but I didn't have my graduation until May. So there's kind of like this 6-month period where I'm like, what am I going to do? Do I get my full-time job now? I still haven't graduated. So it was official, like I got my diploma, but I hadn't had the actual ceremony. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do with myself. I think partly I had like a personal change. I'm like, what do I want for myself right now? And that was to be like financially independent. I wanted to be able to move out, to have money to allow myself to go do things I like to do, like travel. And I felt that by the time I was done with all my coursework, done with my degree, I wasn't really prepared for any jobs in my field. Um, I had maybe planned on teaching English or teaching, but once I had gotten to the end of my degree, I didn't really want to get into teaching. I didn't like the teaching world as much, having volunteered in public schools, which I love kids. I love working with kids. I was a preschool teacher for 3 years, but by that time, I was just like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. So I asked my dad, which I don't usually do, for some advice. And I was like, hey, like if you were my age right now, what would you do? What's a field right now that's huge and you see doing well in the future? I want stability, I want job security, and I want to be paid well. So he told me cybersecurity, and I'm like, that's not going to work because I hate computers and that doesn't sound interesting. But he told me that I didn't need to be super technical or super, I guess, computer savvy always to be in cybersecurity since it's such a big field. There's a lot of jobs. And he imagined that I'd probably go into a role that had like governance and risk and compliance, which is a lot of writing and policy stuff, not so much the technical side. So I did research on that. I'm like, okay, I think I could possibly do that. So that's when I started looking at boot camps and found Springboard.
That's awesome. And there are plenty of cybersecurity boot camps out there now. What stood out about the Springboard cybersecurity track?
Originally, when I was going through the process of picking a boot camp, I found a couple that were, I guess, up there, the most popular ones, and compared each to see what I liked about them. Some really big things for me was that they were asynchronous because I worked, I was a preschool teacher, so I couldn't actually attend during the day. It would have to be whenever I had the time to. Another big thing for me was how fast I could complete it. I was really shooting to be done with it by the time I had my graduation, which was in May, the middle of May. And I actually, even though I didn't technically finish my Springboard boot camp until June, I finished the coursework in April and then took my exam the first week of May and got my certification. So that was a win. But Springboard had said on their website that if you dedicated enough hours per week, you could finish it within 4 months. And I'm like, that's what I need. I need to be done with this. I want it as quick as I can, asynchronous. So those two things were really big for me. The last thing that was big for me was that the different payment plans, you could pay once you got a job because they had the job guarantee. To me, that was really big. Even though I didn't end up doing that option, that made it more worth it to me.
Yeah, I was going to ask if Springboard's job guarantee had any sway when you were looking at boot camps. Yeah.
Yeah, I even applied for it. I paid up front because
Mhm.
that was the cheapest option for me, and I just ended up putting it on my credit card. But I still did the job guarantee anyways because I was like, I need a job no matter what. So
Yeah.
that's what I ended up doing.
And what was the boot camp application process like? Like, did you have to know basic cybersecurity skills or even coding to get into the cybersecurity track?
No, I didn't need any experience to start. I mean, I think it was important to them that I had some level of education. I feel like I mentioned like, oh, I'm finishing my bachelor's or
Mhm.
I'm just about to be finished with my bachelor's. Like I have some higher education experience. I think you also had to had some experience with like online schooling, which I did because I went to school during COVID. So of course I knew how to use computers and stuff like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I applied, they called me within 10 minutes and I was terrified. I'm like, whoa, I'm not ready. I'm in my bedroom right now. So, but it was super informal. They just called me and asked me, did I really think I could do this? Because it's, pretty intensive. It's not a field I'm coming from, even though I didn't have to be from the field to be ready for that kind of course load and dedication. And also what my goals were. I'm like, I'd like to finish this within 4 months. I want to get a job very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So just talking about stuff like that.
And since you were so new to this field, did they have you complete any kind of like pre-work or like a short course, intro course before day one of the boot camp?
I don't think that I had to do any pre-work, at least not that I remember. But
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I really liked was they gave you access to the whole course, I think 2 weeks in advance. So I started technically the first week of January, but was able to look at the stuff in mid-December. And because I was able to do that, I planned out my whole next 4 months, like when I would complete everything. Um, I don't know. That's how my brain works. Like I need to plan for things and have milestones. So I gave myself like a general like plan for each month, what courses to complete and so on.
So what did a typical day or a typical week end up looking like once you were in the boot camp?
So I usually mapped out my week a week before. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe on that Sunday I would plan for the next week, or I usually did it the weekend before, given how much I completed the prior week. But usually during the week, I put a lot of hours in. I can't remember how many hours, maybe 20 hours a week was the goal if you wanted to do it within 4 months. So I would shoot for 30 hours if I could.
Wow.
And it's not always exact. Like they would say this assignment should take 2 hours to do. And it might have taken me only an hour or half hour if I really got it.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I really liked was the different materials, because it can get boring to just do tons of readings or watch tons of videos or anything. So there was usually a mix. There were some videos that you would watch, then an assignment to reinforce that, then maybe a lab, and then an essay, which to me kind of it was good. It built the foundation and I never got super bored. And if I did, I just moved on to the next thing and then came back.
And what were some of the main like skills or tools that you learned in the boot camp?
I think that Springboard did a good job of having a range of stuff that they like gave in the course. In my job now, I probably only use 20-30% of what I learned. Like I had a huge range of what I learned in Springboard. But I think that that's because they're trying to accomplish a well-prepared person for cybersecurity, and there's tons of different roles in which you need for those roles. And I didn't need all those skills for my job, but one thing that sticks out to me now because I use it for work was this tool called Nessus. So when I was doing the Springboard Bootcamp, I would do these Nessus scans and I would scan for vulnerabilities. And now I do that for a job once a month. Like I regularly scan for vulnerabilities. So now I'm really good at it. But when I did it during the boot camp, it was also new. And I'm like, what is this stuff? It made me a little bit more appreciative of computers because I've grown up on technology,
Mm-hmm.
but didn't really have the appreciation for how it all works and communicates. So that was really cool for me. And I don't know, I wish I could tell you all the cool things they showed me, but it was honestly probably like 100 and some things.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like they give you some good practice runs to get you ready for the actual real job. And then mentorship is such a key component of Springboard's program. So I'd like to know, like, what was your cybersecurity mentor like?
So my mentor's name was Victor. I was actually very shy when we first started meeting. I think we would meet every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And was very shy, but he was super nice and supportive and always checking in on me. But honestly, I didn't probably use him as much as I should have or could have. But I found that when I was struggling with something, I was just like, okay, I'm going to sit this down, move on to something else so I don't slow down my progress and come back to it maybe in a couple days or so. And usually by the time I came back, it would make sense or I found a way to resolve the issue. So most of the time that I would meet and talk with him, I would just review like what I've been up to, things that make sense to me now, things I'm still struggling with, kind of like a briefing. There were only a couple times where I would email him and I'm like, hey, I don't understand this project. Like, can you help me? And then he would get back to me within a short amount of time and then I would complete it. But he was pretty proud of how dedicated I was. Like every time we would meet, he's like, wow, you are 3 chapters ahead now from the last time we met. And I'm like, yes, I'm trying to be done with this. So he was really great.
And was Victor a cybersecurity professional himself? Was he doing the kind of job you were looking for?
He wasn't doing the job that I was looking for. He does a lot more, I guess, higher level leadership work now,
Mm.
because he's been doing cybersecurity for a lot longer than I have. He has a lot of experience and it's something he's been doing for a while. And I think he got into it probably mid college or after college. He worked a lot of different jobs within the field. So he
Mm.
was able to give me advice and was able to help me feel out maybe what jobs I would like. And even though I'm working a job I didn't think I would like because my job is a little more technical,
Mhm.
still enjoy it. And I feel like I'm working like a new part of my brain. So
You mentioned that there were all kinds of assignments during the boot camp. So I'd love to know like what kinds of projects or labs you ended up working on in the cybersecurity boot camp.
whew, there was so many, tons of labs, tons of projects. Some that I can think of right now, I conducted a penetration test, which is an actual job that people do where they go into, um, usually they're helping a company figure out where they're vulnerable, whether that's like the attack surface of the computers they use, um, just trying to help their security posture. And that's a lot more technical than I would like. So I never really had an interest for penetration testing. I'm like, no, that's very computery. That's not what I'm going for. But when I did that project, I found out how much of it was actually like a lot of writing and policy and making sure that you can communicate well to people who aren't in your field, because usually you'd be talking to management and other officials who are stakeholders in the company. So they're not going to understand all the technical terms. So being able to kind of bridge that gap. So that had made me have an appreciation for even the technical roles. Like it's not always just straight computers, no human interaction. There is actually a good balance between the two. Um, there were a lot of different labs, like the one I mentioned, where you would use different tools like Nessus.
Mhm.
There's tons of different tools that I could think of. There's Burp Suite. They have all these crazy names. Snort, Wireshark. That do different things but are still useful and cool that I use now in my job. So it was really helpful to use them then and kind of get a feel for them, because even though I went into my job as a new person, I'm still like, oh, I already know that. Like I've used that tool before. And I would say like in my boot camp or for fun because I had the experience.
Did Springboard prepare you for any like specific cybersecurity or networking certifications?
It did. So the intention, I think, for the cybersecurity bootcamp was to prep you for the Security Plus, which is a really big certification in this industry. I kind of think of it as the entry level certificate because there's higher ones that you have to wait 5 years to get, 6 years to get. So that is recommended for people who have 1 to 2 years of experience in tech. And I was like, oh gosh, I don't have nearly that much experience, but after having studied for so many months and like really drilling it in my head, by the time it was May, I'm like, it's time. I don't think I can be any more prepared for this cert other than now. So it prepared me for that one.
That's awesome. And then you ended up getting that right after the boot camp first try.
Yes,
That's
thank
amazing.
goodness, because it's expensive.
Yeah. So let's talk about career services. Like, how did Springboard get you ready for the tech job hunt?
They, since I did the job guarantee, they take that very seriously. And honestly, doing that kind of work, and usually when I'm thinking of how the course layout actually was, it would be like a technical chapter, then a job chapter. Like you need to network with some people, you need to conduct informational interviews, you need to go research companies. So that was usually a nice break. I
Mhm.
liked that format. I did a lot of different things. The thing that was most helpful, I think, was informational interviews. That's actually how I got my job now. The person that I conducted one with reached out to me once I had graduated. we had met up and talked, and he's like, I think I know of like a job for you. Like, I'll reach out and let them know. And I sent him my resume. Then that job, the one that I work at now, reached out to me, and that's how that took off. So even though I didn't get to use the career services probably as much as I wanted because I got my job before I finished the program, I think I finished my program mid-June and I got the job at the first week of June. So we
Amazing.
didn't need the career services at all,
Yeah,
except for the stuff that I did during the boot camp.
that's the best scenario for sure.
Yes.
So, when you were thinking about applying to cybersecurity roles, like which ones did you feel qualified for as you were finishing up the boot camp?
None of them, because every job wanted 2 years experience. They're like, yeah, this is entry level. We're looking for somebody 2 years experience with a degree in this field and these certs. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I only have like one of these, which is the cert. I don't have the degree in the field. I don't have the experience. And I probably, once I got my Security Plus, which is the first week of May, I applied to jobs every week, probably at least 20 jobs a week. Like, I was really serious and wanted to get a job, um, but was having no luck. I mean, every job would send me an email back like, nope, sorry, you don't have what we're looking for. We moved on with another candidate, which was super hard. I really hate the job search and I'm very lucky that it ended up working out, but I didn't have a lot of luck applying online. It was a lot easier for me to network and get a job that way, which is what Springboard emphasized. They're like, hey, it's hard to just blank apply to jobs. I mean, it's you and 200 people who are competing. It's better to know somebody who knows somebody. So I tried to put some emphasis into that too. But I applied to any role, any entry level role. I was like, I'll try. I'm hopefully prepared for it.
Yeah.
So I did that. I didn't have any specific job in mind.
Well, and like you said, networking really paid off because it landed you your current role. So was Coherent Technical Services interested like in your certification or your Springboard bootcamp experience? I'm guessing the bootcamp experience was important.
I had known somebody who worked with Coherent Technical Services. Sorry, I call them CTSI. So they knew of somebody at CTSI who was hiring and then linked me with them. And since they are a government contractor, the DoD recognizes Security Plus as an entry level cert. It's what you need to work in security when you work for the government. So that was huge. They put a lot of emphasis on that. They were like, what's your score? How well did you do? What things did you do poorly on in the exam? So I had to report all of that to
Wow.
them. Yeah, I was like, I passed, like I made it. I have it, but they were really concerned about like what were my strengths on the exam and weaknesses and my score. They did ask about my Springboard experience too, because obviously a system administrator has certain things that they do, and they're wondering, do you have any experience with that at all? Um, and I was like, I have some experience. I have done this tool. So there were some things that I could say, like, yes, I've done that before. I know what that is. But luckily they were very patient with me and knew that I was very fresh. I did
Mhm.
not have the, so many years of experience, that I was somebody new, but the tech world, I think, is having a hard time right now, at least in my like bubble, because they want all these experienced people, but don't necessarily always want to pay and don't realize the value of taking on somebody new who is probably willing to work for less.
Mhm.
You don't need to pay them 100K to just be a system administrator. You can get a lot of new, fresh people who want to work in cyber, and you don't have to pay them as much, and then they can build up that experience, and then now they're the person you're looking for with 5 years experience with certs and so on.
As you said earlier, there are so many kinds of roles in cybersecurity. I haven't spoken to a system administrator yet, so I'd love to know in general, what are your responsibilities?
So I am a government contractor, so I work on base, and I work in a lab, or I have a lab that I'm responsible for and some machines in that lab. So I work together with some engineers. They're responsible for the software that's on these machines, and I make sure that the machines are secure, that nobody could mess with the software, take the software, or harm, the computers that they work on. So technically, I fall under IT at my job, even though I'm not very technical in that sense. But most of the stuff I'm doing is just to remain compliant with DoD standards. So I do Nessus scans to scan for vulnerabilities, make sure that they are not vulnerable to anything like cross-site scripting, stuff like that,
Mhm.
just to make sure that they're safe. And I also harden them, so I have to do something called it's called a STIG. That's what we call it, but I think it stands for Security Template Implementation Guide. It's something to do with the government. They put out these STIGs, and I have to implement the STIGs on these computers. And I have several computers that I take care of. So I'm the maintenance, and my engineers are the production, and then we work together and do that.
That's so cool. Do you have like a next step or a next rung on this career ladder that you're aiming for?
Yeah, so I actually have started my master's degree in cybersecurity technology, which I'm really excited about because I
Oh.
love school. So I had missed being out of school. I'm like, oh, I want to go back. And my job had offered to pay for my school if I stayed for a year after I finished. So I started last month
Hmm.
and I'm shooting to finish by next December. So it's a pretty short master's degree, which was my goal. I'm like, I want to finish as quick as I can. I'm trying to move through everything as fast as I can. So I'm doing my master's program right now, which is a lot of fun because it's pretty much what I do for work. I'm
Hmm.
doing a project right now with my master's that's Nessus scanning. I do so much Nessus scanning. It's annoying. It's like a job, it's for school, it's for Springboard. It's really big deal. And once I finish my master's program, I think I'd like to study for this cert that's called the CISSP.
Hmm.
And that's usually the certification that management level people in cybersecurity have. So you have to have at least 5 years of experience to have that certification. So I would need to wait some time to take it. Um, you have to have worked different jobs within cybersecurity to apply for that certification and take the test. So it's got a lot of different requirements, but I'd like to work for that in the future because that's usually a big step for people in my field.
I feel like some people might think that going from like early childhood education type roles to a cybersecurity role might be like a really big leap. Have you found that there's any transferable skills between what you were doing before and what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I think my general idea of people in tech or in cyber
Hmm.
mostly were people who are not, I don't want to say that they're awkward, but maybe not
Yeah.
super sociable. And I think being a teacher, you just have to know how to talk to people and be nice. Even though I'm very shy, I think having grown up and having to be an adult, like I just can talk to people now,
Hmm.
any kind of person. And I also think that just being in higher education prepared me to talk about different subjects at a higher level. So even though a lot of the times I'm not understanding things or I don't have experience with it, I can try to follow and I ask questions and I try to be intuitive and, read body language. I do my best with the job. And I think that the skills that I've transferred were mostly just like soft skills, like knowing how to talk to people, picking up on stuff. Unfortunately, don't work with kids anymore, even though I love kids and I miss them a lot. I really like my job right now, the quality of life it's afforded me. So that's been a really big thing for me.
Yeah, that was my next question is, at this point in your tech career, you've done so much in just a year, from making a career change to doing a boot camp to like starting this whole new cybersecurity career. Was Springboard worth it for you?
Oh, most definitely. And I love Springboard. I've probably recommended it to like 10 people I know who are also looking to make career changes. Um, it was so great for me. And I think that the program is really well designed. Like I never had any issues when I was doing it. Um, Technical at least, like everything flowed perfectly. And I felt like I had the support when I struggled with content. I was able to talk to other students about stuff and other people who have finished the boot camp. I can't remember the exact name of the resource that we used, but it was kind of like a chat. So you could talk to students in the program currently, past students, other mentors, whenever you just had a quick question or, just randomly thinking of stuff in the field, which was really useful if I wasn't able to get a hold of Victor or just wanted to talk to different people. So I really liked that aspect. And I could not talk more highly about Springboard. It worked really well for me, and I'm very happy.
So my last question for you is, what is your advice to any incoming cybersecurity students at Springboard? Like, is there anything that you wish you knew before day one of that boot camp?
I think that you have to be really ready to put a lot of time and effort into it. I love school, so that aspect wasn't hard for me, but
Mhm.
my mentor would tell me how he had students who were falling behind and just not keeping up with the coursework, and I was going like speed runner, like I'm going through every chapter as fast as I can. When he would send something back and I didn't get enough, a high score, I'd send it right back, like fixing everything. Like I was always on top of school. But that's because I love school. So for me, it was enjoyable to do that. So I think you need to have the discipline to one, struggle and understand that this is a new field and be ready to put in the work. Use your mentor a lot.
Mm.
I regret not using mine more. Um, Even though that I think I probably didn't struggle as hard as some people just because I was really putting so much pressure onto it. I wish that I would have spent more time talking to my mentor about stuff and getting a feel for cyber. Like I said, most of the times we met, it was for me briefing him, like, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I
Mm.
accomplished, this is what's next for me. And we would just talk about that. I would also put a lot of emphasis on the networking and career services, even though it's kind of painful, like having to reach out to people that you don't know. I'm like, hey, can I interview you? You work in the field I'm interested in, and it would be super random. But I would say that it paid off, for sure. So even though that's not the funnest part of the boot camp, it's probably going to be the most worthwhile part because you can teach the technical skills, but just knowing people and that part is really important.
Well, I feel like that's a great place to wrap up this Q&A. Thank you so much for talking with me today, Gabrielle, and sharing your insights about the boot camp experience and also landing your first cybersecurity job. Your dad must be so proud of you. And thanks so much to all of you for watching. We're going to be posting a transcript of this video interview on the Course Report blog with contact information for Springboard, just in case you're inspired to apply for any of their online career tracks. And in the meantime, follow Course Report on Facebook and Twitter. And if you're a bootcamp alum, don't forget to post a review of your coding bootcamp experience on Course Report. Your review is a huge help to anyone who's thinking of getting into tech today.